In this video, I'm going to bring you an unboxing and overview of one of the most customizable cases I've ever seen. The Lian Li Lancool 216RW case. This case is amazingly focused on airflow, but you can move buttons, you can move fan locations, you can move video card locations, motherboard location, SSD locations, and so many things. The way you see it right now is not the way it came out of the box. Completely customizable. And not only do I do an unboxing to show you what comes in the box, but I move around the configurations just to show you how customizable it is. Coming soon after this video, there will be a build inside of this case. So it's incredibly important to watch this one because in the build video, I'm going to skip over these parts. But anyway, let's get started. So starting off with the box, we can see first off, Lian Li, feel the difference. Lancool 216, airflow focused. We can see the case over here and then RGB. Along the side over here, nothing major. Lian Li, feel the difference, and UPC 216RW white. Same thing here, and pretty much same thing over here. So let's go ahead, open it up. So nice, along the top, we have an accessories box. I'm gonna put this aside for now. And what's nice about that is there aren't things just floating around the case. It's in its own box right up here. I think that's pretty nice. And so I'm gonna flip it over real quick. All right, so along here, we can see the glass and it does have the protective film. Let's see if we can hear it. Not bad. Still looks a little dirty because there is the inner protective film. We can see down here, there is a mesh. That mesh is going to be for fans that we have on the base of the case right inside here, blowing air up into the case. So it's going to be sucking air from here. We can see the nice full display here. There's a very tiny little border along all the sides, blocking only a little tiny bit. We can see everything here. So definitely we want to focus on cable management. Coming along the back over here, we have 140 millimeter RGB fan for exhaust. We can fit a 120, but really, why would you want to? Then 7 expansion slots or 7 cards. Here is for the rear IO of the motherboard. Power supply down over here. And then, yes, you can install a vertically mounted video card. Beautiful. And that mesh wraps around over here with a screw, so it looks like you can remove the mesh. Then coming along the rear, plain flat panel, nothing wrong with that. Along the front, we can see 2 140 millimeter fans. They are also RGB 140 millimeter fans. Then there is the filter over here, Lian Li down here, and pull on that to take off that. Now, there is this mesh here, but it's not like a mesh filter like you would normally see. It's just a little tiny mesh, so there is some dust that's going to get through there, but you can actually buy a separate filter if you'd like to use there. So these tremendous 140 millimeter, and they look much bigger because of the frame over here. Beautiful the way that they implemented that. Then coming over here, we find what looks like a regular side piece, but there's a lot more to this, and I'll get to that in 1 second. I've never seen that before. So then putting this panel back on. Along the top here towards the front, we can find the power button, a reset button, a headphone jack and microphone jack all in one, 2 USB 3.0s, and then 1 USB Type-C connection. The top of this case will take 3 120 millimeter fans or 2 140 millimeter fans, and it will take up to a 360 millimeter radiator. So that's awesome. Then coming along the rear of the case, we have these 2 thumb screws and then a little handle right here, which will allow us to remove the top panel. The top panel, again, allows us to put either 3 120 millimeter fans or 2 140 millimeter fans, and it will allow us to put a 360 millimeter, a 280, or a 240 millimeter radiator. If you remember, I was mentioning about this panel that it's not just a regular panel. If you come up here, if you don't like this being right up here, for me, I keep my PC on my desk, so I need to reach up, way up, to be able to find the power button. There it is, to turn it on. But actually you can relocate this all the way right down here towards the side, towards the front of your case, And then as I'm sitting, if I need to turn it on, I'm over here and I'll just click, turn it on right over here. I think that's an awesome idea. You can relocate that. Coming along the side here, we're going to find a thumb screw, and then the only other one we're going to find down here is on that mesh, and it's a manual screw. But that's not actually how you take off the side panel. So we're just going to remove this one screw here, and then we can, while still holding on to the side panel, just pull it down like this, and you can kind of fold it out. Then you can remove the glass. Remember, I mentioned before, there is the inner film. Totally clean, so just make sure you remove that. And then the side panel fills in to the bottom of the case, or fits in with these 3 little pegs here, and I'll go over in a second how they slide into the filter. And then up here with these 3 pegs, or 2 pegs, that connect right up here. Here on the bottom of the case, just above that little side mesh, are those 3 little slits where the bottom metal pieces of the side panel slide into. And then up here and here are where those 2 pegs where the top of that side panel would click right into. This case can support a motherboard under 280 millimeters in width. Then we can see the cutout back here for the plate on the back of the motherboard for liquid cooling units or for fans that might need that. Then we can see 2 rubber grommets right over here, as well as 1, 2, 3 cutouts for more additional cables. Then there is a cutout right over here and right over here for the motherboard for cables right over here as well. You can also fit in here 2 120 millimeter fans or 2 140 millimeter fans, blowing up or sucking air down, whichever mode you'd prefer. I'd probably recommend sucking air from the bottom, blowing it into the case to circulate some more airflow. And then of course along over here for more additional cables. Along the bottom, you're also able to fit up to a 240 millimeter radiator. And then on these 2 little grills, you're able to fit 2 2.5 inch drives, be it mechanical or SSDs. And there'll be a few more places to put drives, but we'll get into that in 1 second. Along the rear of the case, removing the rear side panel, that there is no screws or anything. It has those same 2 little pegs along the top that the other side panel had. We can see those 2 pegs right over here. Then we can see along the top right over here a spot for 1, 2, 3 additional fans, as well as 1, 2, 3 ARGB connections for those fans. Coming down from the front panel or from the bottom panel, there would be the cables right over here that would give you USB 3.0, USB Type-C, the front panel header, instead of having a bunch of individual cables that would plug into the front panel I/O on the motherboard, it's just one single cable. This should be a standard across the board. And then HD audio connection. For this panel, there will be a SATA power that you need to connect to your power supply to provide power for the fans and the ARGB, and then the ARGB connection right over here, as well as the 4-pin PWM fan header. These you will connect to the motherboard so that you can have places for the ARGB and the PWM to work off of when you connect fans here. Dropping down a little bit, we can find right back here a spot for 2 2.5 inch drives, be it mechanical or SSDs. So far you have 2 on the power supply shroud, and then 2 back here. Then coming down a little bit further, we can find 2 spots for either 3.5 inch drives or 2.5 inch drives, be it mechanical or SSDs. And they come off relatively easy. To put them back, almost as easy. They snap right back into place. Then you can fit a full ATX power supply right down here. Then there are 2 rubber pads right over here to absorb the vibration, that way to reduce overall noise. There is about 1/4 of an inch space right down here for your power supply to breathe. Not a ton, but typically power supplies don't need that much air to begin with, unless you're stressing them 100%. And then just laying this down, we can see there are 4 rubber pads for feet right over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. That also helps with noise and vibration. The pads are about a little over 2 inches long. This is where the drive trays go. So if we wanted to, we can remove them all together, or we could just leave it there. And then down here, a filter for your power supply fan. Just wash this off every few months, dry it off, and then just slide it right back into place. Easy enough. Now, I did mention cable management. There are a few pieces of Velcro ties over here to help you manage some cables, but then also pieces of metal right over here so that you can slide cables into for additional cable management. I'd actually prefer these over the Velcro. The Velcro is a little bit more difficult to manage. Here, just slide it through, kind of set it and forget it. But then also right over here under the Velcro, right here, these are pieces of metal so that you can actually slide them through here at least. And then coming up over here, they give you pieces for the Velcro to slide into. So a little bit of cable management on these as well. So not totally horrible with the Velcro side. So one of the very cool features that I found about this case is, as it is right now, this is a setup for an ATX motherboard. You'll cover these grommets with an EATX board. So what you can do is undo these 3 screws. Then remove that panel, flip it over. You might fight a little bit at first to get everything screwed in, but I'm using 2 hands for other stuff here though. But that gives you more space over here. So now even with an EATX board, you can fit some cables and everything inside of those grommets. So definitely very good, lending itself to cable management. So then something incredibly interesting about this case, some of you eagle-eyed viewers would have already noticed, it does have a spot for an ATX or of course EATX, but then you notice there's a hole here, a hole here, a hole here, about an inch up the same exact holes. Same here, everywhere there's a standoff, there's an inch above that with another hole. So as it is right now, this allows you to have a radiator up at the top. But if you don't want to, if you need a radiator at the bottom or you need additional space at the bottom, you move each of those stand-ups up from here to here, from here to here, from here to here, and then all the rest, you can actually raise your motherboard. That's the first time I've seen that you can actually either keep your motherboard at one level or raise it up to another level. Although coming around over here, I'm not sure how that's going to work exactly for the rear IO. I'm sure they've thought of it, I just can't wrap my head around that right now. And there's more. So let's check out the accessories box real quick. All right, starting up, we have the Lian Li Lancool 216 installation guide. You don't have to worry about this too much. We're going to go over everything in the build video coming up soon. Then a very cool feature, it is a rear fan bracket, allowing you for extra cooling along the rear of the case itself to either blow air in through the rear of the case over the video card or IO or whatever you'd like. So definitely something very interesting, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Some foam. Here is a seal plate for along the top of the case. In case you're not using a 360 millimeter, you might be using a 280 or 240. You can put this on the additional fan hole to keep pressure in and to keep that silent. So definitely a great idea. I've never seen this before. Then here they give you, which I've never seen before either, and this is amazing, a little accessory or screw box. Okay, then opening it up here. And I'm not sure what any of this says. Here we go. Thank you for your purchase. Hope you enjoy the journey of building your PC. That's nice. So here they give you 9 of the smaller zip ties, 4 thumb screws, 2 standoff bolts for the graphics card holder, 4 fan screws for adding fans to your case, then 28 additional fan screws. A very important piece here, it is a standoff screw so that you can screw in standoffs, but there is a screw stuck in there. I'm gonna have to work a little bit to get that screw out. 4 of these type of screws for the power supply. 4 of these flat-headed screws. 3 standoffs, 27 motherboard and 2.5-inch drive screws, 8 screws for fan mounting, 8 screws for 2.5-inch SSD mounting, 8 screws, what might be for liquid cooling unit. Unfortunately, they're not 100% clearly labeled. And then 4 screws for spare parts. Now the other one of those 4 is stuck inside of that standoff tool. Then here they include 8 anti-vibration rings for 2.5-inch SSD mounts. Although SSDs, they're typically not going to make any noise, but overall case vibration might influence that noise on those drives. And then 1 rubber pad with adhesive on the back for spare parts. The other nice thing about this toolkit is if you want to segment these a little bit more, they bring additional dividers here so you can fit different types of screws all along here. Now to fit a vertically mounted GPU here, we would just undo these screws. Then we would remove this panel over here, and then we would slide this right back in here, turning it over, and then we would screw in this screw here and this screw here, keeping that in place. And then we would add the graphics card's mounts, and we'd put that right in this screw hole, and this one right over here. Now mind you, I would need the standoff bit to screw those in, but I need to get that screw out of there. So they're screwed in, just not firmly. And then to add additional cooling back there, we can add this fan bracket. Mind you, we'd put in a fan, an additional fan if we had one, and then we'd go ahead and screw that in right over here to the case, and then right on these screws as well for the vertical video card. And then right down here, there's a little tiny hole right above and actually right next to the power supply that you can slide the cable for that fan into. So they kind of thought of everything inside of this case. And then you would need the PCIe 4.0 ribbon cable or riser cable to lay down right over here for your vertically mounted video card. Obviously in the next build I'm going to do, there will be a vertically mounted video card, so stay tuned for that. And this is a separate purchase. It did not come included with the case. And to move this over, we again take off the front panel, and then we remove these 2 screws. Now we need to find those front panel cables, pull them through here, and then we'll come to the front bottom left hand side where the blank panel is. We'll go ahead and remove that, just taking this off temporarily. Going to relocate that to the top, and we'll pull those cables out of the system. Then we're going to put all those IO cables that we just pulled out from the side, slide them under here, and then feed them through the rear over here. Then after sorting the cables through here, we're going to slide everything right through here, through the side of the fan, and we're going to have to situate it carefully because it's a very tight fit. Almost feels like it shouldn't be there. And then I recommend, once you get it to where you want to, screw in the bottom one first, because that's going to be the deciding one. Putting in the bottom one first makes this so much easier. Now we're here. And then for the top panel, put in that clear panel we just took off from the bottom. And now we just put this back on. Now we have clear up here and clear down here, and it looks like it was supposed to be there. So that is amazing to me. And then now all the cables that were managed along over here and over here now come along the bottom over here onto the bottom tray. And if you wanted to, you can mount them upwards instead of downwards. So incredibly customizable. So let me know what you think. I think the case is awesome. I think it offers a bunch of different features and configurations for an amazing price. And well, it's Lian Li, so you know it's going to be a good case. So obviously, Out of the box, it came horizontal and I made it vertical. I showed you how I made it vertical. There was one or two things I missed in that conversion part, but I made up for it in the build video where you can see where I built this. I did break a few things in that video and a few things were just a bit awkward. The breaking part wasn't Lian Li's fault. That was completely my fault. The awkward part, I would say that's probably Lian Li's fault. But aside from that, let me know what you think down below about this video. And then up on this video, I'll show you how to build this machine. And if that video is not ready yet, I'll show you how to build a similar machine. Anyway, Iggy with ThisBytesForYou out. See you guys.